So welcome everyone to the fourth public meeting of Open Parl Data. Together with Christian, we're going to give you a quick update of what has been happening in regards to our project. So the Open API, but also the Open Standard for Swiss parliamentary data or data for political affairs or pursuits, depending on who you ask. What the English translation is. Politische Geschäfte or Fettpolitik in Switzerland. Yes, so for today, our plan is to give you an update on the ECH Fachgruppe, the specialty group. That's how we translate it, if I'm not mistaken. So what has been happening there? We're going to give you, Christian's going to give you an update on the crawlers. And then I think at the center of today's meeting is basically the API. We're going to present also based on your input the requirements and the possible solutions or way to move forward. Then I'm going to give a quick update from the workshop we had on governance and sustainability, and also the proposed way forward there. And then lastly, we're going to give you a bit of info on what else is happening in this in our vicinity. So a quick update on the Data Hack Days Bern and also Swiss GovTech Fair, I think it's called. Yes. And with that, I will hand over to Christian.
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm welcome from my side. Here again, I present you the the usual model about what we are doing, and I'm going to address those parts in the following. First, maybe what happened on ECH. There we have had been busy since the last time. There had been a kickoff and 2 meetings with people from in this group. We are working now in the direction that we have formed subgroups to specific topics. So the idea is to work on certain topics in smaller groups with the hope that this is more productive. In a sense, it's not this kind of large meetings where everyone listens but nobody really feels engaged to do something, but rather in smaller groups with people who are focused on those topics, so we can bring those stuff forward. The idea is that we will make for each those topics you see here, like meetings, persons, standard, which then links together as a whole in the end. Of course, the idea of what comes first really depends on the motivation of all the people working in this specialist group. We also have set up a tool chain which we want to use in that sense. The idea is to use LinkML, which is modeling language, so we can describe the data model used, but also have some kind of open description possibilities, which will use Markdown. And the idea is that in GitHub we set up workflows and templates, so those kind of data which is coming in from the data model and the Markdown description will then be committed or published automatically in a template for ECH, which then will be given into review in the normal ECH workflow. So we have a GitHub page, and we are going to try this out. So far, as we know, it's quite a novelty. We want to go a little bit away from this kind of annotating Word documents and really focus on the data. Also from this side, there was a good news that ECH has approved application for funding. So my work in this group will be financed by ECH, so I can spend time there. This is especially important as the current Mercator funding in this area has been used for the setup of this group. There will be a media release from ECH and the Federal Chancellery about this new group in the next week, likely. And since today we also have a website or a page on ECH where you soon can see all the members. And also if you're new here and interested in this group, can simply apply with clicking on a button to be part of this group. For the moment, what we have been doing, you find on the GitLab page of openparldata. You have to see how this works out, if you can move or publish those stuff on ECH. At the moment, they are rather in this kind of SharePoint. They offer each group a SharePoint site, which is not necessarily publicly. We have to see how this go on. Then in the meantime, there was also a meeting from another group, which is which I call here politische Angelegenheiten. There was a meeting in Bern with several participants from those mentioned organizations. And the idea is here it's one idea which is now the focus of this group, is to find a harmonized authority list of Swiss parties. Of course, there is each group organization has a different view on this topic, and the question was, do we find a common basis for that? And at the moment, it looks like there's a tendency to use Politik Suisse for that. They are building up on a research basis a database about political parties, especially also with a historical focus. And the idea is now to explore the possibilities in an upcoming meeting if this database maybe can be used as a database where we all can refer when we are talking about special parties. Of course, there is, again, we have to be seen, it's just about the level of, is it just the new stuff? Is it just the cantonal, regional stuff? Well, there are different aspects, and to be honest, we never have seen what Politik Suisse is doing there. They're still work in progress. They think about to release it this year, hopefully, and we will see how this goes on. But at least there is quite some progress in this matter. And then let's come to the data import. As told, as presented last time, we had there the affairs from the federal level. This includes consultations and now even also the initiatives. As a sample to get also an international level, we have also imported data from Fürstenstein and have imported data from the cantons. Since Schaffhausen is still pending, this is, I think, a little bit my piece of resistance at the moment, because their website is, let's say, not import friendly or crawler friendly, and I still have to find a solution there. In the meantime, I have focused on the import of the cities. Here now I have completely discussed. So we have now the data of the affairs, the persons mainly, for all those parliaments. And of course, maybe this is not as enriched like the cantons. I mean, often the data is not as extensive as you get on the cantonal level. Often it's just an affair and maybe a title, an offer, and some event when he has been on the agenda, but sometimes it's reduced. So we tried the best to import what is there, and sometimes it's reduced. And with that, maybe also again with explaining the architecture behind what we have been doing. So we have what you also will see when you set up or try to upset that to set up this on your local machine. We have three databases. So we have a database which is called Stage. So all the stuff we are crawling on a daily basis. That's the idea in the long term, or maybe even close, depending on the update cycle of the parliaments themselves. We will import those data in the Stage table. And from the Stage table, we will then upsert this data in a data warehouse. And here we have this kind of permanent ID. So the idea is when I delete something here, so if I simply want to clean the Stage, we will still have a permanent ID for an affair for OPARL data. So at the end, you will get on the API a number for an affair or a person or a meeting, which should be stable independently if you're crawling or not or deleting. So this dataware surfaces to keep the permanent IDs, which actually is then based on the external ID of the parliament. And also then we will have processes on this level where we download all the profile pictures. And what also had been happening in the last weeks is that we will then also download all the documents, which we here collect only as links. And while downloading it, I mean, at the end, the idea is to make the documents also available in the API as well. You will have the link from the source, from the parliament, but as well the document stored at openparldata. And then what we will do here also, we will try already to extract the text from the document, just the raw text. We won't do any cleaning or structuring of the data, just simply an extraction of the text from the PDF or the HTML or just the data and store this as text in the database. So we can build up search indexes on that. And also try to somehow determine with a tool which is called Tika from Apache libraries, the type. Sometimes this is not quite clear from the extensions from the files. And maybe this is also something which then a little bit comes into discussion that you can download all the stuff and do this on your own, but be aware if you start to download those kind of documents, it really takes a while. It's about 600,000 documents. But you don't have to do. We will provide this data as an API, but actually you can download this on your own if you want to serve or use this architecture. And here then we have this kind of permanent data, which then will be also on a daily basis published to the pool. So the idea is here that we really delete all the stuff and reload that on a daily level, where we then only use the external. Well, everything should be nicely linked with the data referenced on our side. And then here on that we will then build on the API. Yeah. And here, of course, there is still, I think we are about, let's say, 90% done. Of course, there is still stuff to do. And at some point, we have to decide what this is now was part of the project. This now will be part of a future project, maybe. But the next step, of course, are bring back the server again. This is because we have somehow lost that we had already set up some stuff on the server, and then let's say, an upgrade from the provider. We somehow were reset, and we need to bring back the server again. Of course, it's not, we haven't lost much, because the idea is that we have all this kind of Docker architecture, so we can haven't lost anything, but we have to bring that back. And maybe also now that's the idea, to bring it back in a manner that it already fits the needs we will have for also test and production environment. What we are still going to do is that we need daily imports for this kind of crawling, fetching the data of all parliaments. It took more than 10 hours. And so this is also something we still have to have in focus to somehow speed up this kind of crawling. Establish also monitoring. So I think we also should make this publicly available, so you can see what worked, what hasn't worked. And of course, then what comes up as soon as this is running on a daily basis, we will see, okay, there was a problem, there is something not right. This kind of fixing error phase is coming soon. And on the layer, there's also still a pending task on my side, this kind of connecting smart word person identifiers to the persons. Then regarding the API, there we haven't yet started implementing. We're still in the decision phase. What tools to use, in the sense that, I mean, it's quite easy to just make an API, but maybe also considering several aspects. We have created some kind of technology decisions, where we also have considered some of your requirements. Some of you have provided in recent inputs. We currently have, there was a recommendation for Postgres, which is quite temptive. I mean, also I worked on that. It's you also can download it from GitHub, and it works with that. It's quite easy to build to create the REST API. Problem is with it's really close to the database. It's really basically there's no logic between the database and the REST API. So if we want to have a certain, let's say, nesting of the data, this already has been included in the data itself. So it's not the API layer which provides that, which is a little bit a disadvantage. Also, I found out it's quite difficult to let's say make endpoints, and then having like you simply want to call one affair or one person. You have to go for the reverse proxy stuff. It's possible, but it's not so nicely implemented. And then there are the possibilities to use frameworks where you can actually have all the freedom to implement stuff on your side. In my company, where we have certain days to make this, the people are more in the Java world. There was also a contributor from Jan, which has tested already some of the data using voting data, using or building it with Flask, which is more Python. Actually, it's a Python thing. And then there's also the thing, well, where is knowledge also then for maintaining that. And there in the middle, this is currently the idea where we likely are going to use is this Hasura. Hasura is an open core software. With the idea you can host it locally. And the nice thing here, it's really nice it's very fast to simply set up an API, which is not only REST in this case, but also GraphQL. GraphQL actually is a way where you can, from your end, when you make a request on the API, say what kind of fields or structure you want the data back. So, well, it's maybe not the main, well, it's not probably what most people need. I mean, it's a really nice add-on, but Hasura already can this doing well and also can provide REST. And it's, as we have tried, it's actually quite easy to set up this API. What we are a little bit worried about, because we are, I think most of us have really open source at heart. It's with that actually this is a venture capital driven company. The roadmap isn't so clear. They have really started kind of doing stuff in this AI hyper stuff. So it's not so clear in what direction they are heading. So yeah, we're a bit unsure about that. But although the setup is actually yeah, quite easy and really tempting to use. So we can achieve the goal with that hopefully in a short time. For the other hand, also with the version 3, they are now rolling out. There are certain uncertainness about where this product is heading. Yeah, this is what we have been looking into. Probably are going to work with Asura. If you as community still have feedback or you see something here which is wrong, or you have another tool which may need, please let us know. Very happy to hear what
Yes,
you're.
there's already a couple of comments in the chat. So Victor, he proposed a fast API, and some people in the chat agree with it. I don't know, maybe Victor, do you want to say something about it? Because I mean, this is also just to make this clear, this is not a decision that has already been made, and this is exactly why we're here today. So if you have input regarding that, please go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, Fast API is now the standard for Python. It's very stable, it's very well built, very easy to set up. It has a lot of contribution. Also, Python is a language that I don't know the language of Hasura, but Python is really becoming like also the standard language for getting more contributions, as mentioned by someone in the chat, Mario, I think. So yeah, I would advocate for Fast API.
Okay, we will look into that. Maybe then the Python word is a problem because the knowledge in our company is really focused on Java.
Yeah, but I mean, that's,
sorry about
I think
that.
Yeah. It's
just see it as a growth opportunity, huh? Are there any like besides Fast API? Are there any other like ideas or maybe just also requirements that we've missed? Fabian mentioned versioning.
Yeah, the versioning is also quite interesting part. I have seen that actually we also have looked into the guidelines from the people from, I don't know, Federal
Chancery, I think.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
guess. And there they argue that versioning, it's just not state of the art anymore. It's rather you use extensions. So yeah, it's probably a little bit of philosophical question. I'm still used to this kind of versioning, because at some point you want to know, well, this was the state from then, and this was state from them, and someone has understand here the recommendations here is going to introduce optional fields which then can be used in an old version, but also be maybe optional in a new version, like or not a version, but somehow it's the same main point. I haven't quite figured out how this should work. Yeah. Back to the API. Maybe, yeah, that's what we are. If you still have further comments, let us know. You soon have to make a decision here and then start to. Oh, sorry, is there still?
I just see black. Yeah.
Black?
No.
Now you see my screen.
Yeah.
Now you see the screen.
Yes.
Okay.
So, are there any other comments regarding the API? Okay, Lawrence also. So there's a lot of backing for fast API. Also, if you have other comments, feel free. I posted the link of the GitLab page. You should be able to comment. We're definitely gonna add. I posted the link again. We're definitely gonna add fast API to the evaluation. But if you see anything that's missing, also regarding requirements, please add them ASAP. And we're gonna have a look into fast API.
Okay.
Cool. All right. Maybe so we're gonna move now to kind of like a more organizational topic. Maybe also if there are there like any questions so far for the more technical part, not only the API, anything that's not clear. If not, we also have definitely gonna have time at the end to discuss that. So yes, so we're moving to for now to the governance and sustainability topic. Just to recap, maybe the goal is here also to kind of guarantee the sustainability of this project. So it's a kind of an essential part of it to define a governance for the API and look for a suitable business or sustainability model. And the goal here is really to operate the solution as openly as possible, but also sustainably. And we really have, as you might know, we have kind of like a freeloader or free rider problem here, just in general as it is with these kinds of projects. So we have to kind of figure out, okay, how we want to deal with that. Yes, next slide, please. So what you see here, it's the first, it's a very short summary of the workshop we've had together with also a couple of people that are here today. We defined kind of like governance principles, but also principles of kind of like the governing body of this API. So starting with kind of open data, open source software. I think that's a given. Also ethical principles. We also discussed like reliability and the quality of the data. Also bearing in mind that a lot of these principles have trade-offs between each other, like for example, reliability and participation. So just in theory, like if everyone would be able to participate or contribute data to some extent, for example, then we would have to be able to guarantee reliability and the quality of the data on the other hand. Yes, transparency, a big topic that we discussed, meaning like transparency of what we are currently working on, but also the decision-making processes on the other hand. That also, so that processes, but also the work is as transparent. Yes, so nonprofit as a principle. So we don't want to make a profit with this project. The goal is really to guarantee its sustainability, to be able to pay for maintenance, but maybe also for like additional features and stuff. But really, it's not the idea to get rich with this. Yes, then also connected to participation, to transparency is obviously participation. So meaning on the one hand that the important stakeholders are able to decide how decide on to be involved into the important decisions, but also to on the other hand to make it easy for people to participate in the sense that they contribute also to the success of this project. So can be technical contributions, but also non-technical contributions. So it's important that, and this is also something we've looked into and I think are still dealing with is kind of to make it as easy as possible to see, okay, what's going on currently, and then where can you actually contribute, how. I think this is also something that will keep us busy. We haven't really found, or I haven't found a perfect solution there. Yes, then efficiency should also be a principle in terms of decision making, but also in terms of kind of providing the data, or just also form of, I guess, pragmatism, in the sense, like I always like to say, perfect is the enemy of good. So and also try to keep the whole organization lean and simple, as well as the processes around it. And then, yeah, kind of a given is the whole sustainability aspect. So it should be possible to run this organization sustainably. Yes, and with all of these kind of principles, I, on the one hand, want to ask the people that are here that maybe weren't at the last workshop, if you see something that you either disagree with or also something that's missing, feel free to speak up, or also to post into the chat. If that's not the case, I mean, yeah, feel free to chime in. If not, we will take these principles and figure out, okay, is this something, at least for the time being, and I will also speak about this in the next slide. But if this is something that we can kind of achieve within our organization, so especially things like decision making, right? So because I mean, open data, we have a board, we have a also an advisory board, but is it kind of possible to kind of implement these kind of decision-making structures within our organization without having like too big of a issue, or it would kind of like imply too big of an effort? Because on the other hand, if you would have to at the time being like implement a new organization, I mean, if you've ever done that, it's come with a lot of overhead. So we would, that's kind of the preferred scenario if it's possible. But if you realize, okay, it's not possible to guarantee these or kind of fulfill these kind of requirements within our association, then it would make sense to kind of spin it out as soon as possible. Yes, there's a question in the chat, but I think we'll cover it at the end. Are there any comments maybe regarding governance principles? Otherwise, we would move forward. Okay, cool. Then, thank you. So, kind of the second part of the workshop was about business and or sustainability model. So we kind of brainstormed, okay, what are possible means of income for this API. And yeah, so and basically what we discussed in the last couple of days, so we would have also, in terms of the cost structure, we'd have to differentiate, okay, so in the current phase, which lasts until end of August, I think, or just August, basically, this cost is covered by, like, so basically to implement the first version of the API, and also everything that Christian has been showing, also to kind of set up all the crawlers for the different cantons and cities, that's covered by the Mercator Foundation grant. And now the question is kind of, okay, how do we move forward when this kind of grant runs out? And we have to differentiate maybe two parts or two areas. One is kind of just maintaining what we've built during these couple of months. So especially when it comes to the crawlers and scrapers, because as you might have heard, or also the example of Schaffhausen, like from time to time, the cantons or cities, they like to mix things up. So they get like a new Ratsinformationssystem, or they just switch something, and that means then the pipeline breaks, and then we have to kind of or Christian has to fix that. So kind of that's kind of the first area, which is not very, so just basically to maintaining the project as is. But then also there's a second area. If you say, okay, this is kind of the state of the project now, this is the data that we provide, but then we also think about, okay, what's next, like in sense of a roadmap, maybe. So what are maybe additional features, what's things or what's additional data that we need? And this is obviously gonna be more expensive, right? So we discussed during the workshop different income streams, and I'm going to go through them. But we basically also in the last couple of days figured out that it's if everything goes right, that we will be able, if we have kind of like a patron membership, so a Gönnermitgliedschaft, which basically means although the data is openly available or it's available as open data, you're still willing to pay for the data. This is mainly gonna mainly concern the people or organizations that are also involved in the project because yeah, as you know, you realize, okay, hey, if this data I would have to get the data myself. Basically, it's going to be much more expensive as opposed to if I can get them from the project. Although, and the project or this data is not going to be available if if I'm not willing at least to pay a little bit for it, right? So if everything goes right, we're going to be able to cover the maintenance costs until the end of this year at least, or just generally going to be able to cover that with membership fees, which are not tied to any kind of added benefits or anything, at least apart from kind of obviously being part of the governance structure, being able to make decisions, but not in terms of access to any services or data or anything. And this basically gives us time until the end of the year to also evaluate the API together with the users and see, okay, as it is, yeah, what's kind of the added value of it, what's maybe also what's other things you need, what's missing. For example, when we're talking about kind of like ideas of members of parliament, for example, kind of that, for example, one person is a member of Nationalrat or federal national council, but also if kind of a communal municipality parliament, then they're currently not connected, right? So, for example, this would be an example of something that we could add on top of this. And then really the question is, yeah, what are the users need in that sense? We will be able to kind of cover the maintenance, and during this phase, we have also more time to figure out kind of a freemium model. So also in that sense, a form of membership that comes with added services. So the core data will always be free and openly available, but we could then kind of evaluate, okay, what are other services or data that could be turn into a revenue stream. And just a couple of examples. So as you see, for the development of a lot of open source tools, something is just feature requests. So being able to kind of prioritize, like with a membership, prioritizing different features, making requests. We could also think about, as I've just mentioned, that like additional data. So to say, okay, the data provided by the different parliaments, and that we will kind of provide this or yeah, through the API as is, but we will also do certain certain linking or like kind of like again like members of parliament IDs or things like that will be kind of like part of a paid offer. We've also discussed support, so just to have paid support for the API, and then kind of in the last part also talked a lot about maybe to some extent also discussing having the possibility of supplying a tool on top of the API. I mean, it's not, and there we really don't want to kind of compete with commercial tools, which is a market that's there, and we don't want to kind of mix up. That's definitely not the idea there. But there's a lot of, or like we kind of figured out like 3 target groups that we think are not well catered to currently, One of them is academia, because for them, it doesn't really make sense to kind of use a commercial lobbying tool. Again, like the commercial tools, they're all kind of like targeted to professional lobbyists. Yeah, academia is one of them. NGOs, there it's mostly kind of also purchasing power issue, so they're not kind of able to pay for these expensive tools. And then last but not least, also government. For them, it's also, they often have to do like monitoring, especially also when we talk about the KDK, so the Conference of the Cantons. For them, they have like different bodies, and for them it's kind of important, okay, on the topic of education, for example, what's going on in the different cantons. So we could also kind of build a tool on top of that caters specifically to one of these three target groups, so not to kind of compete with commercial tools in that vicinity. So yeah, but this is also something far more down the line. Then kind of complemented by grants. I think this is still something. I mean, it's obviously not the most sustainable way of funding, but I think we still see it as a complementary tool in that sense. So I think also a very good idea that was brought up during the workshop was also, for example, with like if people, so that would be academia, but also academic organizations, but also NGOs, if they submit kind of like a grant application somewhere and they use the data that they, or use our data of Open Parliament data, that they will include also a contribution for our project into their fundraising application. So also to kind of have this kind of indirect grants money, if that works out. And then also another source of grants could also be government. So from time to time, there's different calls for a project. I think it still makes sense to watch out for this. Also something we're currently looking into, and we will probably or most definitely be applying is a program by the Federal Chancellery on data spaces. So there's a lot. There's often things like that happening, but I think should then still be not. Can be something that guarantees kind of like the sustainability, but something that comes on top. Yes, and then last but definitely not least, I think I've already mentioned this. We also have to, this also connects a lot to the governance. So we have to be able to guarantee or that or make to kind of raise the chances that people also contribute back to the data. And that can be, on the one hand, kind of we have to have incentives there. So maybe we can do some sort of gamification or awards or however you want to do that. But it also has to be accessible in the sense that people with different skills should know when and how and where they can contribute to what. And that means kind of can be like working on the project, but it can also be contributing back enriched data. Yes, so that was basically a quick update on the business model and also kind of with the results or some results of the workshop we've had. I'm not sure if you have questions or input, maybe also from the people that were at the workshop. Did I miss something? Feel free to speak up, but also write into the chat if you have any feedback or input. Yeah, Michael.
Hello, do you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you very much for the input. I have more like a philosophical or general question. So it's very nice to have this idea for sustainability in general. But am I still correct with the overall idea that at the end, if everything goes very well, the project is not needed anymore at all?
Yeah.
Is this still kind of the final sustainability model.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
So the idea is still to make ourselves obsolete, but I mean, we just have to kind of like, I mean, if you want to have a realistic timeline there, I mean, with all the kind of like standardization process, and I think it's still going to be a couple of years. And the idea is there, okay, how can we fund this until that that the problems solves itself. I think also when when we talk about the maintenance costs, so if everything goes well, they're going to decrease, right? So the maintenance is going to get less and less expensive over time, because if everything goes right, the people like there's a standard at some point. That's what Christian talked about. The standard gets implemented also by the Ratsinformationshersteller, and then we can kind of, the data will be ideally supplied by an API, and that means we don't need that crawler scraper for Canton X anymore. Yes. Yes, Charlotte.
Yes, hello. Thank you very much for this overview on how to get funding for the project, but my question is more related to how will it be allocated. So when you talk about developing tools, for example, for specific target groups, is there a plan to set up a call for the market to react or respond with proposals?
Yeah, that's actually a good question regarding the tool. I think we haven't really covered that in that detail, because again, like the idea to do that, or it's very more or less recent, and it's also not clear yet whether we're going to do it. I mean, again, also to be 100% clear there, we won't develop a tool for the sake of developing a tool. This would rather just be the means to, like, if you realize, okay, it's not possible to kind of like cover the costs or the existing costs of the API through other means, then we would kind of like revert to kind of supplying the tool, because people probably the willingness to pay for a tool is probably higher than for the data usually. But yeah, it's also a hypothesis. I think we would, I think we would kind of, if we decide to build a tool, I think we would kind of form a conglomerate, I guess. But this is all just, I mean, not. These are just my thoughts, and then see also how we organize it, because it's probably not like it's definitely not going to be open data, or it's not going to be happen within the within our association. I mean, definitely not building it anyway, but even not in a structural or in an organizational sense. So this would be a different organization doing that. I could see that as a conglomerate, also involve parties. But I don't think we will probably set up kind of like a big call, because that means effort, I guess. And we won't have a lot of money in the beginning, so there will more be a, I guess like a collaborative effort, I would say. But again, this is just a couple of thoughts. I don't know, Christian, if you have any thoughts there.
I guess one hope is that I mean, at the moment it's still the idea, right? We will try to think about that. I'm talking to you. This is what we are going to do, but I think it's needed that you see the data and you see what's possible and not. So we have a further somehow an idea of how to move on. I really hoping to. Because sometimes I also talk to people, and it's just hard to get a sense in what direction the whole thing will go, as long as it's just this kind of idea and presentation. And therefore, I'm really looking forward to this kind of graphical user interface, where you will see what's inside, what's the impression, what's the potential, what is there and what is not there, and hopefully from that point we get a clear picture also regarding this kind of financial aspects.
Fabian.
Höre dich noch nie, wenn du etwas sagst.
Yeah, terribly sorry I had to accept in terms of conditions. You mentioned, contributing back data, and as I mentioned in previous calls, we're very motivated to do this. And something that actually regularly being discussed within our team is a way how to somehow crowdsource corrections. Imagine that there's just a small typo or a broken link or something that could come from a non-technical user actually of the platform. And we were several times already on the verge of building something like this ourselves. But I do think that this could make perfect sense that it's being solved at the level of the Open Parl data project, and that we basically just link then to this kind of crowdsource data correction from our tool. Yeah, just a small input on this in the data flow back.
Actually, I totally like the idea, and I mean it's not something we can do within this kind of project. But I also have a little bit like the idea. I mean, this is when it comes to FAir types or comes to this kind of harmonization of the current data, which will not be solved. At some point we need some kind of a backend where we can somehow you see what's coming in, and then you have to map that. This is also something which we have probably then or would be nice to do for persons. So when you have several persons which are active in several councils, we need some kind of a way how to merge those kind of persons. And I totally would like to have this done in a crowdsourced way. So it's not me with my not really, but I mean, this should be something where there's like an editorial team and also like a tool where we can do that together, like a little bit like Wikidata entries, something like that. I totally like the idea. I also have this in mind, but at the moment we are still not there yet. Because I mean, this is on needs another part and another more work on that level.
Simon.
Yeah, thank you. Just a question regarding the timeline. Did it change, or is it still planned to publish the graphic user interface on time until summer?
There's the timeline. We were a little bit behind regarding the REST API and graphical user face, but yeah, the idea is still somewhere. Must be somewhere actually.
Thanks.
Cool. If there's no more question, I think we move on to the next topic. I think, Christian, you have to hurry a bit to be able to finish in time. Yeah. So next meeting, 26th of May, 11 to 12. You're all going to get an invite, the ones that are here. Yes, and then we're going to be able to give you an update, the next update. And
yeah, in the meanwhile, maybe just to say that there are other events which have this kind of Parliament data stuff inside. So will be hack days in the Ratshaus Canton Bern. Because the Canton Bern has released open data recently, they also have now 3 challenges regarding Parliament data. And as I understand, they have gathered people from the Parliament to describe what they are looking for. In my opinion, when I look at these kind of challenges, they are really challenges. I think you can make really research grants out of this kind of questions. But just to say, they have this is a chance to use the data from Canton Bern. And if is anyone interested, also maybe already using data from OPAR data, please let me know. And probably not be able to make it, but if there is some interest in that, and also maybe answer this question on with more data from whole Switzerland, that's would be also be an opportunity. And there's also, so that people know, there's this kind of GovTech innovation challenge, or I think the idea comes from the parliament, where the question was, how can startup be how can they be supported? So the idea is this, I think the second time now the departments provide challenges with the ideas that startups, companies can pitch their experience, their ideas, and with the possibilities that there are at the end further orders for services in that stuff. And there's to say there's a quite interesting one for a dashboard for political affairs. Actually, as you can see here, it's it's quite funny, or in my sense, when I'm talking about data, they say, okay, the data should not be a part of your concerns. They're simply looking for a visualization for such a dashboard for an affair for the whole cycle on the federal level. For my side, I think the data would be quite interesting, but I'm really curious to see how do they get the data to do that. In my opinion, this is quite a challenge. I haven't planned to submit something there, but if someone is interested in doing that, or is so, I mean, this would also be very interesting to do that on a level for OPAR data and other cantons as well. If you have ideas or would like to use data, maybe also for a mock-up, feel free to get in touch. Yeah, the deadline is by end of April to submit the mock-ups in that part. And with that, I think we're at the end. Feel free to visit GitLab and get in touch with us if you want to contribute.
Yes, I just remember that we missed Sabine's question. She's asking if there's any collaboration with the SNAI, Swiss AI initiative. There is none yet. Yeah, but we could also look into that. Or are you working for, Sabine, or do you want to say something maybe, or are you working for the AI initiative?
Hi, nice to meet you. No, we are just currently organizing the Swiss AI Weeks on the occasion of the release of the first Swiss foundation model for languages, and this is an open source model. And we are in contact with this SNAI, and I was wondering if you already work together or so, but maybe we can talk about it at a later point.
Yeah, definitely. Also topic, I mean, this will probably become also interesting in the speaking about like topics and stuff like that. So yeah, sure. Please do that. Perfect. If there's no more questions, thank you very much for your input and your feedback, and we'll see you in 2 months' time.